have a disease in my heart, which is called ghurur. It's self-deception, because I think that I'm already perfect. And this comes from the idea that to be good means to be perfect. This equation is very dangerous. To be righteous does not mean to be sinless. It does not mean to be perfect, because that's impossible. We know that we sin, and one of the most emphasized attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is His forgiveness. If we were not going to sin, why would that be the case? Allah has told us, or the Prophet ﷺ has told us, that if we were not to sin and repent, He would remove us from the earth and bring a people who would sin and repent. The process here is not about being perfect, but it's about not giving up. It's about when we make a mistake, coming back to Allah and repenting. And so this idea that we're supposed to be perfect becomes a tool that shaitan uses, either by making us arrogant when I think I'm good, or the second, actually the other side, which ironically comes from the same root, which is thinking that you're supposed to be perfect, is despair. Because what happens is, I may think I'm perfect, but then I mess up. I slip. It's going to happen. We may slip. And then when I slip and I think, because remember, in my mind, I thought that to be righteous means to be perfect. And to be perfect means you never slip. So in my mind, now as soon as I slip, I want to give up. Because I say to myself, this path isn't for me. This is a path for perfect people. You know, for so long, Islam has been seen as this club of perfect people. And I'm not part of that club. They're the masjid people. And I'm not perfect, so I can't be part of that club. There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as perfect people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, He says that all the children of Adam are going to make mistakes. They're oft to make mistakes. And the best are those who repent. So we want to be the best. We have to be those who, when we slip, we get back up and we repent. And we don't allow shaitan to use that tool against us, to make you think that you're not good enough to go to Allah. You see, this is a very powerful tool that shaitan uses, the tool of despair. The tool of despair, which is that I made a mistake, so I shouldn't pray anymore. Or I made a mistake, who am I? You know what? I should just take off my hijab. It makes me so mad when I hear people say things like, she might as well just take off her hijab. Because it's like somebody saying, she couldn't be perfect, she couldn't be an angel, so she might as well stop trying. It is so detrimental, this mentality, and we have to stop aiding shaitan against one another. This is aiding shaitan. We should be helping one another and realizing that when you put on the hijab, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you became an angel and now you're perfect. I love this mentality that we have, right? She does that and she's a hijabi. It's like this idea that if you do something as a hijabi, it's like worse. I mean, I understand the idea of being an example, but in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not that when you put on your hijab, you have announced that now you're perfect. You're still a human being and it is part of your struggle. So don't allow shaitan to come at you that way and tell you because you messed up, you're not worthy of this path. You're not worthy of trying, or you're not worthy of going to Allah. We all mess up. And the only thing you have to keep doing is you keep coming back. And you don't let shaitan win on that. Finally, one of the pitfalls of this path is chasing the spiritual high. And what I mean by that is when you first enter into Islam, you know, the people who revert or the people who start practicing, you go through this period where you're kind of in a spiritual high. This is, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah refers to it as yaqadha, awakening. This is kind of like when you're on spiritual steroids. You're like, super Muslim. And now the thing is, this is actually a temporary state. By its very definition, all states are temporary. So when you're in this spiritual high, things become easier for you. It's easier to put on the hijab and pray all night and be involved. And then what happens is that high starts to go away. And that's natural. Iman rises and falls. But the problem is this. When you are in that spiritual high, here is the pitfall, is that you may look down on others who are not in the same spiritual high. You might think, this sometimes happens, the so-called convert zeal, right? This idea that sometimes when we first enter and we're very, very zealous, right? And what can happen is shaitan can come at us and make us look down on other people who aren't able to do as much as us while we're on spiritual steroids. It's important to be very grateful when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to worship Him, and don't take credit for it. And then here's the important part. When that high is gone, or when it goes down, Iman rises and falls. What do you do when the high is gone? This is going to determine whether or not you are successful in this path. Because if you are chasing a spiritual high, then this is when you stop worshiping. This is when you stop struggling. You say, you know what, I don't feel it in salah anymore, so I'm not going to pray. I used to feel the high, and now I don't feel the high anymore, so I'm just not going to pray anymore. You see, we're not worshiping the spiritual high, we're supposed to be worshiping Allah. Regardless of whether you feel the high or you don't, it's about Allah, it's not about how you feel. So this is very important, that you don't lose hope when that high is gone. And when the Iman goes down, you don't give up, because this will be when shaitan comes at you. Finally, I want to remind you and myself that we all have a unique role to play. Not everyone is supposed to play the same role. Not everyone is supposed to be, in the public sphere. Not everyone is intended to play the same role. But realize that every single one of you has a unique role that you are supposed to play. And while we, want to excel in all of the ibadat, all the acts of worship, what I want to advise you to do is at least find something that you can excel even more in order to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Find a path to Allah, not to neglect any of the fara'id, not to neglect any of the obligations, but find something that you try to excel in, whether it is in charity or helping people, or in qiyam, or in Quran, or whatever it is, and try to intend to make that your special path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'll end with this. It was actually something in the video that was very, very moving. We saw the situation that they're living in, right? But there was something that was kind of subtle, and I caught it, and it was so powerful. One of the children was wearing a t-shirt. I don't know if you saw it, but the t-shirt said in all caps, never, ever, 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 ever give up. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه غفور رحيم سبحانك الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.